Hi, it's Katrina. Number 10. The Cryptology of World War II. One of the truly secret sciences of World War II was cryptology. Secret codes were never used in such shocking numbers up until the early 1940s. The Germans and the Japanese developed complex systems to encode and decode sensitive information. The Allies then had to employ their own genius scientists to figure out how to crack both codes, thereby gaining the advantage by obtaining top-secret information. It all began with the German Enigma Machine. This piece of genius engineering could turn ordinary text into a secret code. That secret code could then only be deciphered by another Enigma machine. But this wasn't just scrambling letters, it was extraordinarily complicated. The only reason the Allies managed to break the code was because of a German traitor who copied the Enigma machine and shared his knowledge with France and Britain. Then a group of Polish and British mathematicians who operated as part of a secret team codenamed Ultra figured out how to intercept coded messages. The Nazis never found out, but they might have realized their ability to sink ships declined dramatically in 1942. They tried to recover by adding an extra layer of code, but it was already too late. The Americans soon devised their own secret machine called Sigaba, and unlike the German and Japanese code machines that were so effectively cracked, Sigaba remained unbreakable. It was the most secure cryptographic machine of the war, developed by the U.S. Army and Navy before they even started fighting. It continued to be used until 1959, but its patent wasn't declassified until 1996. Number 9. Nazi experiments. During World War II, the Nazis conducted horrific medical experiments in the name of science. Between 1942 and 1945, the Third Reich carried out brutal scientific tests on prisoners in concentration camps. And although it was in the name of science, very little was ever achieved or learned. One of the major things the Nazis wanted to learn was how to make seawater drinkable. They were trying to figure out what kind of chemicals they could put in seawater to make it healthy for the human body. These tests were carried out from July of 1944 until September of 1944 at the Dachau concentration camp. Subjects were deprived of food and fresh water, and they were only given chemically processed saltwater from the ocean. The results of these tests were terrible, and the Nazis never made any scientific progress. There were other horrible experiments as well, such as the high-altitude experiments. Nazis wanted to determine the maximum safe altitude from which a pilot could parachute out of their damaged airplane to safety. In order to do this, the Nazis used living humans as guinea pigs. They also used real people to test drug treatments. They tested immunization compounds and antibodies, as well as the treatments of contagious diseases. This meant they were infecting people with things like malaria and tuberculosis on purpose. They even exposed prisoners to mustard gas, then gave them experimental antidotes to record the effects. And all of this is just the tip of the iceberg. Number 8. The Tuxedo Park Laboratory. Alfred Lee Loomis was a millionaire scientist who helped win World War II for America by funding scientific research. He didn't just fund the research, he hosted the scientists and the laboratory. He turned his own private estate into a scientific research center. Loomis came from an extremely wealthy family, so he was privileged and had plenty of connections. He studied math at Yale and graduated from Harvard. Then, in 1917, he volunteered for the military. He worked mostly in ballistics at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. It was there that he invented the Aberdeen chronograph, the first instrument that could measure the velocity of artillery shells. Loomis also anticipated the Wall Street crash of 1929. He saved himself by liquidating his assets into gold. He then made a fortune purchasing stocks after they crashed. Loomis became close personal friends with President Roosevelt, who admired his work. He used his money to open a research facility in Tuxedo Park, his own private laboratory. Scientists working at the millionaire's private residence conducted experiments in spectrometry, the measurement of time, and radio detection. It was the team here who helped to build the very first microwave radar, which was loaded into the back of a van and driven around a golf course to track cars and trucks. Seems like a fun friend to have. Number 7. The Goliath tracked mine. In 1940, the Germans stumbled upon a miniature vehicle prototype in France. The mysterious machine ran on tracks, and it could be controlled remotely. This gave Nazi scientists an idea, and automaker Carl F.W. Borgward was soon ordered to develop a similar vehicle. The Nazis wanted something that could deliver a massive payload of explosives by remote control. It took a few years, but in the spring of 1942, Borgward came out with the Goliath. The Goliath was a remote-controlled mine. It could only travel less than a mile, but it was an impressive piece of engineering. It relied on a 2.5 kilowatt electric motor and could carry about 100 pounds of explosives. However, it was deemed ineffective, and it was ultimately discontinued. But that didn't stop the automaker. Later that same year, a new version came out that used a gasoline engine and had a range of 7 miles. 2 years after that, the Goliath could carry 220 pounds of bombs and was controlled by a 2,000-foot strand of cable connected to a controller box. Over 7,500 of them were built during the war. The Goliath was most notably used during the 1944 Warsaw Uprising to remotely blow up nonconformists. However, it proved a huge waste of time because the Polish Home Army could simply cut the control cords and render the Goliath powerless. Number 6. The Nazi UFOs. A photograph of a mysterious object hovering above an airport in Prague was taken during World War II. The image was allegedly taken by Joseph Epp, but nobody's sure if it's real. Joseph was an inventor hired by the Nazis to engineer a flying saucer. What many people don't realize is that instead of working on an atomic bomb that could win them the war, Hitler's best scientists were trying to figure out how to create a UFO. The Third Reich put considerable energy into the development of an aircraft that could fly in every direction. In the eyes of the German military, this made a lot of sense. If they could develop a flying saucer with the ability to move through the air in any direction, they would have domination of the skies. Moving up and down meant there would be no more need for runways, and pilots would never be captured by enemy aircraft. They believed a flying saucer would be the apex predator in European skies. This isn't a conspiracy theory, it's something the Nazis really tried to do. Joseph Epp completed his first blueprint for a working flying disc in 1938. The reason it was shaped like a disc was because Joseph thought it would be more stable and easier to maneuver. Models were built as a proof of concept in 1941, and soon after, a facility was opened in Prague to build the machines. But the prototypes that were built over the next few years were utter failures. They could never get the flying saucer to move the way they wanted. Then, when Soviet troops took the airport back in April of 1945, Nazi engineers destroyed all records of the progress they'd made and got rid of all the prototypes as well. And now for number 5. But first, it's shout-out time! I want to say a big thank you to Stefan Muhammad 45 and Deadfox 89 for supporting this channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like these. Number 5. Gas helmets for babies. There was a lot of weird tech floating around during World War II, but one of the most disturbing inventions was the baby gas helmets designed by the Royal Air Force. There was nothing malicious behind the intent of the helmets, they were just extremely unusual. The idea behind the helmet was to protect babies in the case of a poison gas attack. The British were under constant bombardments during the war, and they were well aware of the Germans' capability of using chemical weapons. Poison gas was common in World War I, and the British were terrified that the Nazis would dust their country in mustard gas. To prepare for a potential catastrophe, the RAF invested money in protecting their citizens. At the beginning of the war, almost every adult in England had their own gas mask. Within a month, the government had designed and distributed respirators for babies and children as well. The adult gas masks were standard, but the ones for babies were a lot more complex. Babies don't have the lung capabilities of using a standard respirator. This is why the baby helmet was developed, a device that fully encapsulated the child, basically locking them inside a gas mask. Once inside, the child received a clean air supply through a manual pump that someone else had to operate. There was also a harness to keep the child from wriggling out of their giant gas helmet, but in reality, it was more like a small cage than a gas mask. Number 4. Hitler's anti-gravity machine. While Americans were busy building radar devices, Hitler was allegedly crafting his very own anti-gravity machine. It was called the Glocke, and it was one of the wonder weapons that the German dictator hoped to build during World War II. Keep in mind, there is no legitimate proof that Hitler ever had a secret anti-gravity device. But regardless, people have been talking about it for decades. There is no denying that even though the Nazis lost the war, they often had better technology. Arguably, their weapons and machinery were superior. They even developed the very first cruise and ballistic missiles. After the war, conspiracies began to spread about the mythical weapons the Germans had designed but never had time to finish. Die Glocke first appeared in the Nazi sci-fi book called Morning of the Magicians that was published in 1960. People said the anti-gravity machine was partially built but never completed. It was allegedly traded to the United States military in exchange for SS Colonel Hans Kammler's freedom. But what the Americans did with it is anybody's guess. Number 3. The women who won the war. When the men were gone fighting on the front lines, the women were left at home. But that doesn't mean they were idle. In fact, it was a group of women who saved the world during the war and brought home victory for the United States. These women didn't pick up any guns, but they did make serious advancements in computer science that greatly contributed to the war effort. These women were part of a project called ENIAC, or Electronic Numerical Integrator and Computer. This device was the first fully electronic digital computer, created as a secret project in 1945 to calculate artillery trajectories. It was the first device that could track the path of bombs, which was extremely important in the war. Although the machine was invented by two men, John Mauchly and J. Presper Eckert from the University of Pennsylvania, it was a group of female programmers who made it work. The computer was huge, measuring 8 feet tall and 80 feet wide. It contained 18,000 vacuum tubes and 70,000 resistors. It even had 5 million hand-soldered joints. The computer was a big success for its time. It was 1,000 times faster than other machines and could even outperform the human brain. The machine was operated by a group of 6 women who controlled the electronic circuits, switches, and digital trays. These women were Kay McNulty, Betty Jennings, Betty Snyder, Marilyn Meltzer, Fran Bilas, and Ruth Lichterman. Number 2. The German atomic bomb. If the German military truly had superior weapons and better technology, why weren't they the first to develop the atomic bomb? It's a good question, and one with a fairly simple answer. The shocking truth is that the Nazis never really thought of it. They were busy developing missiles, but nobody ever stopped to think about the usefulness of an atomic bomb. They definitely wanted to win the war, and they spent lots of resources on rockets, planes, and other strange military inventions. But they didn't start a nuclear program until 1939, after they'd already invaded Poland. Germany began their own uranium development project. Physicist Kurt Deibner was tasked with learning what military applications the fission process had to offer. By 1940, brilliant physicist Werner Heisenberg came to the conclusion that nuclear fission could be controlled inside of a reactor. He found out that it could also be used to create an unimaginable explosion, one bigger than anything anyone had ever seen. But like I mentioned, the Nazis weren't fully invested. There was a team working on it, but they weren't nearly as dedicated as the Americans. By 1941, the Nazis were winning the war, and they developed a method for transmuting plutonium. Up until 1942, the Germans were on a real winning streak. The Americans were busy fighting the Japanese, and the English were stuck in Britain. So the Nazis mostly had the Russians to worry about. German scientists just didn't put the effort in that they needed to create an atomic bomb in time. They could have, but Hitler just wasn't worried about it. And by the end, it was simply too late. Number 1. Australia's Pearl Harbor. One of the worst attacks in World War II occurred on February 19, 1942. The Japanese attacked the small Northern Territory's capital town of Darwin, an event referred to as Australia's Pearl Harbor. The attack was unexpected and unprovoked, and it was extremely devastating. It was the largest attack on Australia by a foreign power. A total of 242 Japanese planes bombed the town of Darwin and the ships in its harbor. The Japanese also bombed the nearby airfields. They thought that if they could destroy the airfields, the Australians couldn't use them to interfere with the Japanese invasion of Timor and Java. The attack caused chaos and panic, and Australia was convinced the Japanese were on their way to invade. This happened only days after the fall of Singapore, when the biggest surrender in British history occurred. In the end, 237 people were killed, and almost the entire town was abandoned. The Australian army had a difficult time controlling their own troops because mass looting broke out after the bombs fell. The troops stationed at Darwin were stealing clothes and refrigerators from houses that had been blown to bits. Thanks for watching! What other things would you like us to do a video about? Let us know in the comments below, and be sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. See you next time! Bye!